the Beatles are on the news again with the film about John Lennon called Imagine, and a book by Albert Goldman, which is very controversial. You are famous in a way, because you were the first drummer of the Beatles.
That's right.
And then you were sacked and replaced by Ringo Starr. You know that you missed one of the most outstanding adventure of the century. So you will tell us your story. How did you meet the Beatles?
I met the Beatles in 1958, Jerry. They opened my mother's club, the Casbah.
What were your relationship with them? I mean, who in the group was your best friend? Was it John or Paul or George?
No, I think at that time it was John. I mean, John and I spent a lot of time together in Hamburg.
Yeah.
And when we came back home to Liverpool, his house was my house. I was at his house. And after we'd played in gigs in and around Liverpool, it was always back to my place. And we played records and drink beer and get drunk.
Yeah, so
we'd have a lot of fun.
You tell in your book that John Lennon was peeing overnight from a balcony when you were in Hamburg. Is it true?
That's true, yeah. I mean, what you've got to remember is that when we were in Hamburg, we'd do anything for a laugh.
Yeah.
Okay. And John was this type of guy who would, you know, if you dared him, he'd do it. And this particular morning, the nuns were on their way to church, and we dared him to pee over the nuns.
It is true that he got out his trousers and he wear only underpants, and he put his ass just over the faces of the people in the club.
Yeah, we did this at the Kaiser Keller. We got drunk one night, and again we all decided we were going to go on stage and act the goat. George went on with the toilet seat around his head. I was dressed up in funny clothes, but John went on in a swimming costume. And halfway through the number, he just dropped the swimming trunks, turned his backside to the audience, and we were about as close as what we are to one another now. So the people were dancing with John's bottom in front of them like that. You know, so.
Is it true too that he did impersonating of Adolf Hitler and he said "Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil" when he was in the streets? Or
yeah. It was a way of letting off tension. Plus the fact the German people at that time were expecting us to do outrageous things. And John was one of these guys. Sieg Heil with Hitler. He realised what Hitler was during the war. He thought it was funny, you know, and the German people thought it was funny as well.
You met Albert Goldman when he was preparing his book?
No, I've never met Albert Goldman in my life.
Yeah. He says in his book that John Lennon, when you were in Hamburg together, he says that John Lennon murdered a sailor. Is it true?
No, didn't murder a sailor. It's in my book, but what we did, we were short of money. We'd spent all our money on drink and women and everything else. And the sailor was there, and he'd been buying us drinks, and you know, he took us out for a meal. And John and I decided that we were going to roll him, you know, pinch his wallet and do a runner on it. But it was no way of murdering him.
Albert Goldman says in his book too that John Lennon had a love affair with Brian Epstein, that John was homosexual and had a love affair with Brian Epstein. Is it true?
I wouldn't know. I'll be quite honest about that. It may have been something which happened after I was with the band. A lot of people have turned around and said it did happen. A lot of people have turned around and said it didn't happen. I don't really know.
How were you fired from the group? How did they replace you by Richard Starkey, aka Ringo Starr, who was playing in another group called Rory Storm and the Hurricanes? How were you sacked, fired?
I was called into Brian Epstein's office. We played at the Cabin the night before. And I was called into the office the following morning. And this was no big trouble because I'd been called into the office before, because prior to Brian being the manager, I'd been the manager. And it was just a case of discussing prices for the band. And I thought it was just going to be another business meeting. And when I got there, I could tell that Brian was a little bit apprehensive, he was nervous. And then after he talked around the subject for about 5 or 10 minutes, he just turned around, he said, "Pete," he said, "I've got bad news for you. The boys want you out and they want Ringo in." And it was cut and dried that Ringo was going to join the band on Saturday.
Why?
The reason he gave at that time, Jerry, was that I wasn't a good enough drummer.
Oh.
And
they thought that Ringo Starr was a good drummer?
They may have, I don't. And there's a lot of other people who think that he isn't.
Yeah.
But what happened was we found out afterwards that the real truth behind it was that they were jealous.
Yeah.
Simply because
of your eyes? You had more success with girls?
Well, yes, I did. It's one of those things. There's always someone in the band who'll strike it a little bit luckier than the others. And it just happened that I got more than what they did.
Yeah.
So,
but you met the Beatles afterwards, or you talked to them?
I met them on 3 occasions.
Yeah.
I played twice on the same bill as them, and once when they were actually recording for the BBC at the Cabin. Yeah. The funny thing was, we didn't talk. We passed like ships in the night. And from that day to this, they've gone their way and I've gone mine, basically.
What was your reaction during Beatlemania?
It was great to realise that the truth which we felt, okay, because even when I was with the band, we realised that we were going to go someplace. And even though I wasn't part of it, it was nice to see that, okay, the realisation was there. And that people could see themselves that, yes, they were something different.
That you were jealous, you were sad?
Sad, yeah, because I was that close to being part of it. But it was a case of, okay, stand back, see them, appreciate them, and wish them the best of luck.
Yeah. But you tried, you didn't try to become a rock star by yourself afterwards?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I joined another band called Lee Curtis and the All Stars.
Yeah.
And then I formed my own band, the Pete Best 4, which later became the Pete Best Combo. And we went to America and toured the world. But it wasn't quite meant to be.
Yeah.
We just didn't get the right breaks.
Is it true that you tried to commit suicide?
Yeah.
Why?
This was around about 1964.
Yeah.
And it was in the dark of the night, and it was one of those things. I was depressed.
Yeah.
The band wasn't moving as fast as what it should have been. And I didn't make any suicide notes or anything at all like that. It was just something, a split-second decision.
Yeah.
And fortunately, my brother saved me.
Yeah.
And I made a vow that from that day to this, that thing will never happen again.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you listened to the radio and when you learned the shooting of John Lennon?
It upset me. A lot of people have turned around and said, what difference would it make? This was the guy who was part of a band which kicked you out 20 odd years ago. But what the people failed to realise, Jerry, was that I was close to John. I knew the guy for 4 years personally before the split up, and I have very, very fond memories of him.
You listen to Beatles records?
Oh yeah, you've got to, haven't you? I mean, you hear them on the record, you know, the radio, they're on television. I mean, no matter where you go the world over, you always hear Beatles records played. So you always listen to them.
You think you missed your life?
No, it's nice to be looked back and turn around and say, yeah, I was part of it.
Yeah.
And it's something which they can never take away from.
And if it was to be done again, would you fight much more to stay in the group?
Oh yes, yeah. I think I had no say in the matter, the way it was done in 1962. But if I knew it was going to happen again, then I'd make sure that I'd put up a stronger resistance.
At the end, do you think that you are a better drummer than Ringo Starr?
Short and sweet, yes, I do. Yeah.
Et pour être sûr de ne rien rater de Inarditube, abonnez-vous et mettez un pouce bleu.